Hey, Jennifer, AP, as you acknowledged, tough follow there. Christopher was pretty clear. He feels cheated. He feels that there was clear race manipulation going on. I mean, did you see that? Do you think that your teammate was cheated out of a spot of the Final Four?
I do. I agree with him. I think that, but it's hard to put, truthfully, a whole lot of fault on those that did it, because they're kind of doing what they're told and what they're, typically, even not told, right? They just know kind of the protocol in which it goes by. So it's really tough. Obviously, certainly the 24 was in a bad spot, and obviously going to lose many spots until they let up. So I mean, it is what it is, and there were penalties. Whether that deters that stuff going forward is still TBD.
And you still believe that the 23 did nothing wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that we looked at the right rear tire. There was no pinholes left. There was no pinholes at all. So the tire had gone completely bald, very similar to what Carson Hostfars did earlier in the race. He had the same thing happen to him late in the run. So, but it's water under the bridge, and certainly we're moving on.
I'll go to Bob.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. What is the next step for you guys after losing the ruling yesterday? And also, do you have any indication of what happens to the charter you're supposed to get from SHR?
The first part is, we were obviously pleased with the ruling that the judge sees merits in the case. He's going to move forward to expedite the discovery side of it, which is reverse from what he had before. And obviously, without, judging on it without prejudice, and obviously giving us an opportunity to refile once the situation changes, because he knows that things will change over the next few months. It obviously, he understands the complexity of it, and obviously understands that the situation's fluid, and we obviously could see some pretty bad harm coming up. No, I don't have any indication of it. I don't.
Go to Kelly.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Denny, every time you've been in a championship fight, obviously it's been as the driver with all eyes on you and people watching, and I'm sure trying to give advice and so on. You now come here for the first time as the guy on the other side of it, watching a driver get to do that. So you as the team owner, what will you be watching or saying or want to see from Tyler as he competes for a championship, which you've experienced before?
Yeah, I mean, just for him, I think it's just taking a breath, going day by day, right? Not getting too wound up over one practice session or, one qualifying session. The championship is a long way from being crowned, right? We've got lots of laps around this place, and I certainly think that he'll have a great shot when it's all said and done. But just enjoying it, truthfully. I think that my first time having a shot into the last race, I didn't enjoy the moment quite as much as I probably should have, because I was nervous, and certainly it's hard to not get nervous. But I certainly think that he probably was wound a little bit tight yesterday, and I think today's a new day.
We'll go to John Newby.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So yesterday, Steve O'Donnell said they're not going away from the playoffs because of the racing it delivers, but they're open to tweaking the format. As a competitor, team owner, what would you want to see the format become if they made changes?
Just a bigger sample size. I mean, that's the biggest thing. However you come about it, I think that there's tons of discussion on ways that could improve it. I agree that the playoffs will never go away, which that's quite all right. But certainly, I think the small sample size is really tough, right? Because obviously you've seen the data, and you could argue the first four out versus the first four in. It just kind of the sample size was so small there that it certainly jumbled up the results a little bit. Look at this weekend, right? The 7 innocent bystander has got to go a backup car, which probably is not going to be as good as his primary. But racing has so many variables to it. You have to create a larger sample size to get the true answer. So I just believe that we don't live in a one-on-one sport. We don't get a 7-game series or anything like that. It just we live in a world where, in our sport only, when our competition makes a mistake, it can cost us. Usually in any other sport, competition makes a mistake, you capitalize and you score, or it benefits you. Our sport is not like that, so you must create a bigger sample size to get the right answer. And I just think that right now we've just narrowed it down to try to get these exciting moments week in, week out, and I just think that there's a long-term negative effect to that.
We'll go to Jordan.
How bad do you want me to get off the stage right now?
I was going to answer. It was the truth on the podcast the other day.
I'm just waiting for you guys to keep bantering. This is good because stuff always comes out of this. So, Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. You talk about manufacturers this week on the podcast a little bit and their roles in this. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. Have you given any more consideration on what can be done to kind of lessen their involvement on race day, where a lot of these teams are just kind of under one big umbrella instead of individual teams, if that makes sense?
I haven't put any more thought into it, but we all have to realize that the manufacturers are probably these teams' biggest sponsors. And so they're going to do what their sponsors want them to do because we are a sponsor-driven sport. So I just don't know how you're going to avoid it. We can try to come up with just finding ways to not say it over the radio, but there'll be so many code words you'll never understand it, and it'll be too hard to prove. So I hate to say it, we're never going to stop looking out for our sponsors.
And that was my question then. It seems like by what you're saying, it's like this is just going to happen in some form regardless going forward. Is that fair to say?
Probably, yeah.
We'll go to the back here.
Noah Reed, KSAZ Fox 10. Controversies and championship aside, it's still a big weekend for JGR with it being Martin's final full-time race. I was just wondering if you could speak on the driver, the person that he's been, just to you throughout the past few years, and if you have one, just share a favorite memory you have with him.
I mean, I've got a lot of great memories with Martin, but just really overall, I would just say he's just a, awesome person, one of the best teammates you could ever have. I aspire to, have a career like him where in my final race I have a chance to win, and he does. So, I like that he's kind of going out in his way and his time, under his terms. And so I really kind of admire his independence as a person, and certainly really admire, his professionalism as a teammate.
We'll go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. What are the ups and downs of the lawsuit matter like to go through compared to the ups and downs of sports?
Can you be more specific?
Well, what was it like this past week to be in the court and then the decision? And while there are some positives, there are obviously you didn't get the full decision. You're 3 months away from the start of the season. And as of right now, we don't know what you're going to do, and I'm sure there's some questions on the behalf. So what are those ups and downs that you're going through, and how does that compare to what you've experienced in sports?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I hadn't been in a courtroom since I was maybe 11. I got sued. I was riding my bike as a kid, and a car hit me, and they ended up suing me. But I know they lost. They lost. But her brother owned a law firm. So, but anyway, so it had been a while, but my adrenaline was pumping, right? Because I'm like, obviously, you hear the arguments and whatnot, and of course, we feel very adamant on our side of things, and certainly, when you wake up on Friday morning, something's coming, you're nervous because, obviously I've poured a lot into the sport in multiple ways, and certainly financially over the last 4 years. I've put back a lot of the money that I got out of it back into it, and that certainly all could be wiped away pretty quickly. And so certainly it's a nervous time for me, and we hope that this thing gets resolved in a peaceful manner or in a correct manner to fix it. So I'm just it's got its ups and downs for sure, but it's just difficult because you can't control it, right? I can't rely on my instincts or things like that to change the outcome or the results. It's just the facts are the facts. And so I just never been a part of anything like this, but certainly hate that we're in the situation that we're in after everything that we've put into the sport over the last 4 years.
You remain confident you guys will have cars at Daytona 5 or at the Clash in Daytona in February?
I think it's all TBD. There's certain agreements that we're gonna have to navigate. So I hope so. Like mental stress or distress. Yeah.
I know what that's like there, Denny, this week. We're next. We got 4 more minutes. We'll go Lee and see how much time we have left.
Lee Spencer, Series 6 of NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. At the beginning of the season, you had such conviction that this was going to be your year, and then you had the engine penalty. But short of the engine penalty, what do you need to do between now and when we roll out at Daytona next year to be a contender again?
Between now and Daytona, I'm not sure there. I certainly thought that just as an organization we had lost a little bit of speed in the summer. So it's just, people talk a lot about like kind of peaking too early and things like that, but I don't believe that. I think that you when you hit it, and it just seemed like the field got a little faster throughout the summer. We were obviously fired off really, really well, and then in the round of 8, I finished 3rd, 5th, and 8th. I mean, I lowered my average finish from the regular season to the playoffs. I lowered it by 2 or 3 spots. So every year in the playoffs, except for maybe a very, very few, I've been better in the playoffs than I do in the regular season. But we heard Christopher say, when you have 3 bottom guys win, I didn't have enough bonus points to be part of the picture for that last point spot. So I don't know. You just got to have circumstances fall in a better fashion for me. I mean, is there anyone that thinks that Justin Allgaier's not a deserving Xfinity champion? But it just hasn't happened, right? For various reasons. It's just this sport's weird.
Go to Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, kicking the tires on net. Tyler Reddick could walk out of here, the champion. You could walk out of here as the owner, of the team that wins the championship. And you just said that it's TBD if you guys make, as 2311 at the Clash and the Daytona 500. How big of a dynamic is that for NASCAR, for 2311, for you guys to be, potentially be a champion and not be in the season next year because of this lawsuit and because of the situation that's going on with the charters?
I mean, Furniture Row did it. They ceased to exist after a championship. So I think that depending on who you're asked, I think on one side they could care less whether you're here or not, and for us, we certainly got a lot of people that have put their heart and souls into this team and want to see it succeed. And certainly we got an obligation to our team to try to do everything we can to have a fair system. And so we're just one of the ones that got stuck on the front line, and so it's part of it. But trust me, there's nothing more we want than to win this weekend. Certainly, there's a lot of emphasis on trying to win this race, and Tyler's going to give it his best go. But this is a really, really new team, and certainly it was an accomplishment just to get to this point.